Okay, so I'm delighted to be joined today by Michael Griffith. Michael is a service user of NCBI who's living in Shankill in Dublin. And Michael, you're very welcome to the show today.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, Michael, before we get talking about the important role that I know technology has played and indeed continues to play in your life, what I thought we could do is just take a step back for a moment. And perhaps you could just tell us a little bit about your own background and share with us your own story, if you don't mind.
Okay. As I was saying to you earlier, I'm 75, so I have a lot of background, so I'll race through it as quickly as I can. I was born in Dublin, and my father was in the Munster Leinster Bank, which most people will not remember at this stage. It's now part of AIB, and he was in Crumlin, so we lived in Kimmage Road West, which was near to Crumlin, until I was about 6 or 7. And then we moved to Monkstown, where I grew up during my formative years from about 7 to 14. And I had a lovely time there. I loved that part of my life. Played rugby in school, CBC Monkstown. I swam in Black Rock Baths. I was an altar boy in the local church, and so things were really good. I had good friends there, and fond memories. So then I went to secondary school in Limerick, and that's a long story as to why I went down there, and I won't go into it. But anyway, I came back to Dublin then. I was when I was finished, I was 17 or 18, and by that time, my father had moved to Bray because he opened the Munster Leinster Bank in Bray, which is now AIB in Bray. And eventually I joined the bank myself, and I started off actually working with my father in Bray in 1964, sorry. In 1968, then I was transferred into Dame Street in Dublin, and I worked there until 1970 when the AIB came together, and they set up a regional office in Lansdowne House in the top of Lansdowne Road, and I was working in the regional office there, which was very interesting, and I learned a lot about banking there, and I got promoted, and I was doing reasonably well. And then I was transferred out to Rathgar branch, and then I went to several other branches, Clonskee. I was in Greystones for a while, and I ended up in Dunleary, and retired from Dunleary
Yes.
in 1996 at the age of
Yes.
51
Mm.
because of my sight largely, and
Yes.
my sight was really beginning to affect me then at that stage. So
Yes.
in the meantime, I had been involved in setting up Fighting Blindness because I have retinitis pigmentosa, and
Mhm.
that's a genetic eye disease, and it's degenerative. My father had it, my brother has it, and I thought it'd be nice to set up some kind of a support group for my father. So I thought it might cheer him up, and so we set it up, and
Yeah.
it very quickly became orientated on research rather than support per se. Although
Yes.
it's also has a big function in support,
Yes.
and
Yes.
we started working internationally with the other similar organizations at an early stage, and that was wonderful and very exciting, and it was quite
Yeah.
successful from the very beginning.
Yeah.
And so when I retired from the bank, it was about 15 years in existence, and the initial surge of enthusiasm was beginning to wane a little bit.
Mm.
So the board of Fighting Blindness realized that there was a danger that it could peter out. So they
Yes.
realized it was a question of either growing or going. And they asked me, since I had retired from the bank, if I would be interested in going in
Mm.
and trying to set it up as a professional type of organization. So I did that, and
Fantastic.
it grew from there and became
Yes.
quite a successful organization. And
It has. It has. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it has many,
Well.
many scientific
Yeah.
achievements to its
Yeah.
name.
Yeah. 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 And I suppose that
Uh,
was back, you co-founded Fighting Blindness back in 83, would that be about right? 80, 1983?
in 1980, 83, sorry,
1980,
83, yeah, in
83?
1983. You're right,
Okay,
you're right.
so it must be fantastic to kind of look back over those last, what, 36, 37 years and look at the achievements
Ah,
that organization has had, and I suppose the
yeah,
progress that it's made in terms of finding
yeah,
cures for certain rare
yeah,
eye
yeah.
conditions.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. Oh, it's very, very exciting what has happened,
Yes.
and I mean, a lot of it is, I've had nothing to do, you know, with, I mean, a lot of it, I kind of took the initial steps and it all kind of came together. I'd be honest, I worked very hard at it. I was very
Mm.
enthusiastic about it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we were just very lucky the way it all came together.
Yeah.
And, I at the same time, you might be interested to know, I was involved in setting up the charity Deborah Ireland, because
Yes.
three of my children have epidermolysis
EB.
bullosa, EEB,
Yes.
which is
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
genetic skin condition,
Yeah.
and kind of with the experience I had in fighting blindness, we were able to get Deborah set up fairly well, fairly quickly. And
Yes.
again, Deborah is now thriving,
It is. Yes.
and also then, because I was involved with a couple of research charities, and I was trying to get money from the government, and they wouldn't give money to one charity.
Yeah.
We decided to get all the research charities together and to try and get money from the government. And we succeeded in doing that under the
Fantastic.
title of the Medical Research Charities Group, which is now called the Irish Research Charities or,
Yes.
Organisation or something like that. And then in addition, we went one step further and we got all um, the charities to work with the scientific community and with industry in Irish Platform for Patients, Organisation, Science and Industry. So, and they're
Wow.
all
Okay.
going very
Great.
well.
Great. And
Uh,
still going to this day.
they're still going to this day, and there's lots more I could tell you about it, but
Yeah.
we don't want to
Yeah,
take
yeah,
up the
yeah.
whole.
Okay. Okay,
whole
maybe we'll move on to, I suppose, the role that technology has played throughout all this, Michael. So throughout your working, throughout your career in the bank, and then going on to fighting blindness, and I know you've been involved in, as I say, a number of organizations, including Deborah Ireland.
yeah,
I wonder, could you, I suppose, just give an insight into the role that technology has played over this time?
yeah. Well, when we started fighting blindness in Deborah, there was no such thing as an internet. So
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah. It's
mean,
going back a while.
so
Yeah.
you have to, I mean, technology didn't play a huge part in the early days, like in establishing those organizations, but, since I retired from fighting blindness, which I did in 2008, all that time, well, going back to 1980, I have been quite interested in mindfulness,
Yes.
and I've got a huge benefit from it.
Yeah.
And when I retired, I kind of felt that I was so lucky that I had this wonderful resource that I
Mm.
wanted to share it with other people.
Yes.
So I I did a number of things in that regard. Set up a few meditation groups, and then I wanted to try and write something for the meditation groups to
Yes. Yes.
tell them how to meditate and to give them some tips and that kind of thing. So I started writing,
You were doing that.
and
Yeah.
it turned into a book, which I now
Really?
have self-published on
Wow.
Kindle Direct
Okay.
Publishing,
Wow. And
and
Michael, can I ask, while you were writing that book,
yeah,
so how did you manage to do it? Because obviously you said your sight had been deteriorating
right,
over these
that's
years.
right,
So how
that's
did you
right.
manage to write it when
Well,
you
the,
had
I
this success?
I wrote it with a program called Dragon Dictate, which
Yes.
was introduced to me by the NCBI.
Yes.
One of
Yes.
your former colleagues
Yeah.
introduced
Yeah.
it. He came up to my house and installed it for me, showed me how it worked,
Okay.
it's a wonderful program. Has its limitations in the
Yes.
sense
Yeah.
that I mean, it is wonderfully agile in what it can do, but
Mm.
like it can't spell check things like
That's the
if
thing.
if the
You,
word two TOO and the word TWO. It can't
Yeah.
see the difference between the two of
Yeah.
them, you know.
Yes. Yeah.
So it has its limitations, you know, but it's wonderful. And I wrote most of the book. In fact, I wrote all the book with that
Yeah.
program.
Okay.
But and during the course of writing that book, I learned an awful lot about meditation, which I didn't know before. And one
Mm.
of the things I learned was that a mindfulness group had been set up in the UK Parliament due to the huge enthusiasm of one
Mm.
particular MP, a man called
Yeah.
Chris Rowan. And
Yes.
I was fascinated by this, and I got myself invited over to a meeting in the UK Parliament
Mm.
and about mindfulness, and it was so exciting to see
Yeah.
mindfulness being discussed in the UK Parliament,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was determined then to try and do something back here when I came back. So
Yeah.
I did, and after a while, then I set up with a lady called Mary Lovegrove,
Let's go.
uh,
Yeah.
the organisation called Mindful Nation Ireland,
Yeah.
which has as its objective to establish mindfulness in public life and politics in this country.
Yeah. Wow.
And we've had a couple of meetings in the
Okay.
Oireachtas, and Chris Rowan came over and spoke to one of them, and a very famous US scientist who researches into mindfulness called
Yeah.
Dan Siegel came over and spoke to another one, and
It tends to it really took off, Michael.
it did, and all of that now was down very much to the technology. You know,
Yes.
I have
Yes.
to say it was also down to the fact that NCBI were wonderful, and
Mm.
they found two or three wonderful people who were
Yeah.
able to help me,
Just
and
totally brilliant.
you know they
Okay.
used to come up to my house every once a week
Yeah.
and do a couple of hours with me on setting up the
Yeah.
organization and writing the book. You know, so I got huge help from NCBI. But the
Fantastic.
technology is wonderful, though, absolutely
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah.
And
And I know we were speaking earlier today, Michael, about actually the meditation. Because I'm conscious that you've set up a number of groups
yeah,
around the country, and one in particular that I suppose is going very strong is the one that we are running currently in NCBI. And we've actually
yeah,
moved it online, haven't we? So it's
that's
actually
right.
a virtual meditation group
That's right.
in light of COVID, which is fantastic. So it's probably
That's
just
right.
highlighting I suppose
Yes.
the role technology can play there as well,
Yeah.
where we can
Yeah.
continue on these classes, but
Wonderful.
online.
Yeah, it's wonderful that we can do that, you know, and I have to thank you very much and thank NCBI for your great support in helping us to do this, you know, because
No,
obviously
thanks for going.
couldn't do it. We
Yeah,
couldn't do it without your help and support,
yeah,
and that's
yeah,
very appreciated, you
yeah.
know. And
Well,
that group is thriving at the moment. It's
it
doing,
is going very well. Lot of good
yeah,
feedback.
yeah,
Yeah, and
and
yeah,
people are really enjoying it, you know,
yes,
and
yeah,
you know it's amazing. I really believe that mindfulness and meditation is very important to blind people because you
yeah,
know blindness is a very very challenging and difficult thing to have to live with, you
yeah,
know, and oftentimes people kind of look at blind people who are kind of going about their business and dealing with things and
mm,
using
mm,
technology to do everything that ordinary people can, fully sighted people can do, and they kind of think, well, you know, they're not so bad, you know.
yeah,
But you know, as you will know from working closely with blind people,
yeah.
it's a very very challenging thing to face into, you know,
Of course it is. Yeah, of course.
so mindfulness is a wonderful resource for them. You know, it
Yeah,
just gives them great
yeah,
strength and resilience, and
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
and I'm very happy to be able to do that
yeah. I
for
say
my
there's been,
colleagues.
of course, and I think it's been I know there's been a huge amount of really positive feedback from the group that do attend the
Great,
virtual meditation sessions. So
great,
thank
great.
you for that, Michael, for
Oh,
facilitating them.
it's very small.
Michael, I wonder could we have a discussion about your transition to using JAWS? So I know you were
All right.
using Dragon, actually speaking, and then
Yes,
it's probably about maybe 2 or 3 years ago you were introduced to
yes,
JAWS, the screen reader.
yes, yes,
I
yes.
wonder, could you give us a bit of an
Uh,
overview of how you're getting on with JAWS, and do you find that it's a good software to use?
oh, it's
Yeah,
wonderful,
yeah.
wonderful, absolutely wonderful. I mean, it's completely changed
Mm.
it changed my life. Even I would say
Wow. Okay.
it's probably no exaggeration to say, you know, because I would be much more limited if I didn't have JAWS. And you know, I mean, obviously, I can. I can more easily manage emails now than I could when I could see, and I can do a lot of work on Word documents. Um, I don't use the Excel very much, so I don't. That's not very
yeah,
relevant.
yeah,
But I can do a certain amount of searching the web too, and
yeah, yeah,
I read the Irish Times every day and
yeah,
online, and I'm currently, as you know, trying to master things like WhatsApp
yeah,
on
yeah,
the
yeah,
laptop
yeah. But
and things like that.
so find them out. Yeah,
And and I can also manage to a certain extent with Zoom
mhm,
and there are other apps that I can do a little bit with. They're not very accessible, like
yeah,
iTunes and Kindle itself, and a few things like that. So
yeah,
I'm trying to see if I can learn a little bit more about these
yeah.
apps, so that
Applications.
I'll
Yeah,
be able to find my way around
yeah, 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 yeah,
with the keystrokes. But I mean,
yeah,
it's really wonderful because you get to the stage where you can't to depend on your sight is really so strenuous and so stressful that
yeah,
you
yeah,
really have to say, look,
yeah,
I have to go to
yeah.
the keystrokes system,
Keystrokes.
and
Yeah,
it's absolutely wonderful to be able to do so much with the
to be able to
keystrokes.
do it. Absolutely. Yeah.
I would say one thing to
Mm,
people though that are maybe thinking of going into JAWS or NVDA or some other program that you know you do have to learn to touch type, and I kind of felt that I spent my whole life kind of dictating in work, and I
yeah,
had very, very wonderful secretaries
yeah,
who were very tolerant and were
yeah,
able to do wonderful work for me like that. And therefore, I was very lazy about touch typing, and I
yeah.
felt that I was too old to learn touch typing.
Mm,
But I went into it, and I realized I had to
yeah.
learn it if I wanted to do JAWS, and I learned it. And um, the trick, in my opinion, is
Mm,
when you learn the basics, do a little bit of typing every day, even 5 minutes.
yeah.
It's huge. It's huge.
Little and often, Michael.
Little and often, yes. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. If you do 5 minutes every day, it just comes
yeah,
to you. And the
yeah,
wonderful thing about it is I find that, I still do a little bit every day. And
yeah,
I know my typing is getting better and better,
yeah,
as I go along.
yeah.
I'm sure those who are reading my emails don't agree with me, but but I think it is anyway. Yeah.
Michael, I wonder could we have a chat about, I suppose, other technology that you use in your life? So you obviously use JAWS. I know you have a laptop with JAWS installed on it. In terms
Yes.
of perhaps mobile apps, am I right? You have is it an iPhone that you use?
Yes,
Right?
yes,
Okay.
yes. Well,
Mm,
my iPhone is another one of those pieces of technology I absolutely love.
yeah, yeah,
It's such a wonderful thing, and it was again such a game changer for me. I've been using an iPhone for maybe no, I don't know, I suppose most of 10 years, probably more.
yeah,
And I just find it wonderful. But I have so far been using it largely with sight, and
yeah,
even though I've used some of the things that you could do with Siri, like for instance, if I
yeah.
wanted to open an app, I would always ask Siri to open
Hey
the app
Siri.
rather than
Yeah,
go looking for it or
yeah,
something like that, but now my sight has got so bad that I'm struggling to use it with sight, and
yeah,
I
yeah.
need to learn how to do it without sight. And I know some
Sure.
of my friends don't use laptops, don't use iPads, don't use it. They do everything on their iPhone,
Yeah,
and I am absolutely in awe of them. I think that's the most wonderful
yeah.
thing, But
And
I think I will probably be able to get there, But it'll
and
take a bit of while.
take a while. You are using voiceover as well, Michael, aren't you? On your
Oh yes, yeah, no,
yeah, to
that's without
operate it. Yeah,
it's such a gift to have such a
yeah,
simple thing way
yeah.
of reading, and
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and
Um,
the technology is so simple that even ancient people like myself in our
That's what I'm
70s
about.
can
Yeah,
pick it up very easily.
yeah,
Once you're not afraid of it, and
mm,
that's the the terrible thing about older people that they're always afraid of modern
That's
technology
it.
because
That's
it's
the
so
fear.
alien to them, you know.
Something new. Yes. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I always remember the first time my total instruction on 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 computers when I was in the bank was a girl leaning over the desk for about half an hour one day, telling me how to use the computer, and that was it, you know. And I always remember that my big fear was that I would break something on the computer, you know. And, I haven't succeeded in doing that yet, and that's
No.
20, 30 years ago, you know.
So far, so good. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
wonder if we could fast forward, I suppose, to you were talking about earlier about you would obviously co-founded fighting blindness, Deborah Ireland,
yes,
Mindful Nation Ireland. I think it's back in 2018, and then I suppose just going back to last year, you had a busy year. I know you had published your book, The Happiness Imperative, which, just as a
yes,
reminder, is available from the Amazon some Kindle store. But I also I can't go without highlighting, I suppose, the fact that you were won the your Otis Black Pearl Lifetime Achievement Award. Um,
yes,
so this
yes.
this is this is a recognition of your work that you've
Yeah,
done in, I
yeah,
suppose,
yeah,
coordinating research into rare
yeah,
genetic conditions like
yes, yes,
RP. Uh,
yes.
so how much of that felt to receive that award, to go over to
Oh,
Brussels and to accept it?
well, it was wonderful, JP. You know, I mean, it's lovely to get awards like that. You see, when I was working with the charities here, I got involved in working representing Ireland in a lot of the European
Yes.
meetings, and in fact, I got involved with an organisation called the European Platform for Patients, Organisation, Science, and Industry, which
Mm.
you know was a combination of the three different groups which came together to help to see what they could do to promote
Yeah.
the development of treatments and therapies for unmet medical needs. And in fact, I chaired that organization for 18 months. So I did a lot of work in
Yeah.
Europe, and
Yeah.
and Eurordis, the European Rare Diseases Organization, very
Yes.
kindly agreed to award me this award
Yeah.
last year, and
Last year.
so I went over
Yeah.
February 12 months to Brussels, and I received this award, and it was very exciting because you know they do these things very well, and you know it was you know a real gala night,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and it was a bit
Very
like the
professionally
Oscars,
done.
and
Yeah.
I felt like I was receiving an Oscar, you know,
Well,
and you
well,
know it was very exciting, and
it's exciting, of course, and
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
testament to your work, Michael, over
Well, thanks very much,
3 or 4
JP. But
decades. So it's
uh,
huge
I,
achievement.
I have to say though that you know I always be very conscious when I'm
Mm.
getting an award like that I am the figurehead for what has been done by many, many, many
Sure,
people,
sure.
you know, behind me, because, you know, one person can only do a very, very small amount of work, you know, and
Mm.
if it wasn't for the wonderful, wonderful people that I had working with me, I'd never have been standing up there getting that award, you know, so
Yeah.
I'm very
Okay.
conscious of that,
Okay.
you know.
That's
Yeah.
nice. Okay.
Mm.
Michael, I have to say it's been really good having this chat today, and I think a lot of our listeners will. I think they'll identify with a lot of what you've spoken about here, but particularly with getting to grips with JAWS and voiceover on the iPhone. So I'm sure they'll benefit from your advice too. So again, I really do appreciate the time you've taken to come on to this live event and talk to us. So thank you very much, Michael.
Thank you very much, JP.